Hey there. So before we get started, just a quick note to say we had a little audio snafu on my end of the recording. A real rookie move. I had the wrong microphone selected. We didn't have time to re record, and since the information here is time sensitive, we decided to press ahead. If you are applying for the Swilcan package, good luck, and we hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome to Golf and the Good Life, your guide to golf travel across the pond. I'm DJ Jones. He is Connor Evers. And today we are talking about Old Course at St. Andrews Tee Times via the Swilcan package. But before we get there, Connor, great to see you, man, and great to have you home. It feels like you were gone for a whole lot longer than you actually were, but great to have you back. What's the latest and greatest up at H&B HQ?
Beach, appreciate it. Yes, I was on a vacation for about a week long in Croatia, Montenegro, and Bosnia. I was a part of a group of 7 total people, so it was a very fun trip. Spent majority of our time in Croatia, but a day trip to the other 2 countries. It was just it was an amazing time. We had fantastic weather. It was in the mid to upper 80s every day, and at night it was in the kind of low 70s. It rained the first day. Everything else was pure sun. So beautiful trip, beautiful country. I can't say enough great things about all of them, but Croatia was just an amazing place. It's kind of come up in the trends of travel, if you will, from being a big place where a lot of the Game of Thrones scenes were shot, and some things in Star Wars were actually shot there too. So just a really unique place. Loved it a lot. So it was a fantastic trip. I did serve as his, if you will, captain for our group of 7 total. So it's hard when you're doing them, and a lot of people have, expectations on you to stay organized and asking questions all the time. And it's like, did you read the itinerary? So we get the same thing. I got the same thing on the trip. A couple of the guys on it, the night before were just kind of like, wait, what are we doing? And it's just like, you're going to other side of the world, Europe, and you don't know, but it happens all the time. But like I said, there are expectations on you, and it's hard, it's difficult, but overall it was a solid trip. I learned a lot from it for what we do here at H&B. But also, like what we always do, shout out to members that are about to depart from the Camargo Club and Hyde Park Golf and Country Club, both clubs here in Cincinnati, the Marion Golf Club, Roaring Fork Club, and the Country Club of Birmingham. So shout out to those groups that are about to depart. But overall, all good, Deej.
That's awesome stuff. Sounds like a great trip. And man, even when you get away from work, you're still working. Can't get away
It's true.
from it. The curse of being in the travel business. Everybody expects
Mhm.
you to be the travel coordinator.
Amen. Yep.
It's a blessing and a curse at the same
Yep.
time, but it's a good
Mhm.
one. Well,
Yep.
before we kind of dive into today's episode, wanted to put out an open invitation to everyone out there listening to share your old course at St. Andrews stories. We're going to do an episode coming up sometime in the future where we thought it'd be fun to share those stories, our stories through the years, stories we've heard. We've heard so many good ones. And so we wanted to open the floor to anyone that's got a great old course story that you want to share. Head to our website, haversham.com/podcast. We have the record a message feature there. Send us your story. Maybe you put one OB off the first tee, or you hit a car on the 18th hole, whatever it might be. I've actually heard a couple of car stories on 18, so I hope that we get a couple of those. But yeah, we would love to hear your story and include it potentially in a future episode there. But on the topic of the old course, today's episode is a timely one. We are talking about the Swilcan package and old course at St. Andrews Tee Times via this method. And obviously, we have talked about old course tee times a lot here on the podcast. In fact, I'm thinking it's probably the most talked about topic of St. Andrews kind of in general. But usually we're addressing guaranteed tee times or maybe the ballot and just kind of answering, common questions that we receive on those two things. The Swilcan package is one of those things where even though it's one of the 4 key ways to get on the old course, it's the one that's available for about this much time. And it just so happens that that time is right now. As we're recording this, the application for the Swilcan package is open. Let's start with what the Swilcan package is. Basically, it's an option for you to apply for tee times for the old course directly from the St. Andrews Links Trust. The application is open from now until September 22nd or so. You got to kind of think of it as like another ballot, except it's done in advance and you'll have your confirmed tee time if you're successful before you leave home. The odds are long. It's no different than any other lottery. Many will play, few will win, sort of thing. But Connor, it's one of those things where every single year we hear those success stories, we work with those success stories. And I'm curious from your perspective as a planner, how does this method, factor into things when you're working with folks for the old course?
Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of twofold and two sides of the coin of how this works and how it can essentially overall change the process of planning and, and really the overall logistics of your trip and where you're going and such. But when you do apply for the Swilcan package, essentially you're going to be able, when you go through this, you're going to be able to give them, multiple dates of availability for your group. If you're coming in this quote unquote little late and applying in September, where you don't even have a trip completely booked or on the books at all, you don't have anything booked that you're kind of starting, freshly on this, you can go into the application and apply for as much time as you have available. And again, the results will then come out in October. And if you are successful, great. You have that confirmed round on the old course. And then us as a company and the planning process, we can go in and start building the trip around that guaranteed tee time. So that's one way of doing it. The other side of it is if you are planning on balloting, on the old course, maybe you've already had that trip set up. Maybe you're going to the West Coast, you've got, Turnberry, Prestwick, Royal Troon, and then you're going over to St. Andrews area. You've got Kings Barnes and Carnoustie booked. But all that time that you're in, St. Andrews, you have that confirmed round of golf at Kings Barnes and Carnoustie, for example, as I gave, but then you're balloting on those same days. Well, when you go into that application, you have to be very specific with your dates of which the ones you're going to be in St. Andrews, just for the logistics and the routing of it. So that way is great. It does, in sense, decrease your odds because you're only giving them a few days. Whereas the other way of doing it, when you don't have a trip planned, you have a multitude and plethora of dates to give them. But the other side of it too is looking outside of St. Andrews is when you are planning this and potentially putting in those dates, if you're doing this in September, those other, big name courses, Airfields, Troon, et cetera, are probably going to be sold out. Whereas if you go into the application and do it with a book trip, you already have those tee times as well. So it's kind of two sides of it of how the process works from the overall logistics and planning. Two examples, one that went a couple of years ago and they didn't have a trip planned and were able to get them, they applied themselves and were able to get a tee time. They pretty much got everything they wanted. The only thing was Carnoustie. Go back to my example, they didn't have it booked and we had them on the wait list, but just didn't come through. But they still had an overall great trip and obviously got to play the old course, and that's what really mattered to them. And another example, this past April, father son, they had the trip booked. It was almost that exact example of the west coast of Scotland and St. Andrews. Put their names in. They were planning on balloting. They hit. I think we had to move a tee time around for them. I think it was Carnoustie to a different day, but they're able to get their entire trip included with the old course and have it guaranteed before they even travel. So that's kind of how the process works. You're also given a second round in another St. Andrews course, which I know DJ will talk about here in a little bit as well. But that just comes into the kind of logistical standpoint of it as well. And one thing I also wanted to mention, again, they used to call it the direct application. It's now the Swilcan package for marketing purposes. Tour operators, they don't have any type of obligation. They don't work directly. This is an application directly from you to St. Andrews. We don't work with them on it. So it's directly to them. The results are just the results. It's not via a tour operator. It's essentially an application. So that's kind of the planning perspective on that.
Well, it's all great stuff. I mean, that's like most things. It seems like there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of different things that can come into play. What you said about coming in with as a clean slate,
Yep.
I can see the appeal of that. But yeah, you're coming in late October, and so what's really going to be available? Who knows? I think maybe we'll talk a little more about that. So let's kind of talk about the nuts and bolts, if you will, of this Wilkin package. I kind of got the notes here to make sure we get it all covered for you. But in a nutshell, like Connor said, you're going to submit this application to the St. Andrews Links Trust. If you're successful, you'll get a round on the old course and a round on another St. Andrews Links Trust course. So we're talking the New, the Jubilee, the Castle. Those are kind of the main three, the Eden. You can apply for up to 4 golfers. This is a slight change this year versus previous years. In the past, you could apply for up to 8. This year, you can apply for up to 4. So if you have a party of 8, you'll need to split onto 2 separate applications. Big time key here. 1 application per party. Do not attempt to finagle things by moving names around or what have you. The system will recognize those duplicate names and they will all get wiped out. We have heard that story, so don't even tempt it. The cost, you've got 700 pounds in the high season, and the high season is going to be the bulk of the time here. We're talking roughly the middle part of April through the middle part of October. That's really the only time that H&B, that is our season, if you will. The shoulder season, which runs 530 pounds, that's the first couple of weeks of April and the last couple of weeks of October. Tour operators, I think, can get involved when it comes to the shoulder times, but again, that's outside of our season, so we won't even be involved in that sort of thing. It does come with a merchandise credit and a dining credit, 65 pounds worth of dining, 25 pounds worth of merchandise. When you go to apply, you're going to need the name of everyone in your party, their handicap, their home club, if they have one, their email address, and you're going to need it for everyone in the party. So if you don't have a handicap, you're going to need to present proof of handicap on the first tee, I guess is how I would put it. And then once you have your account and have submitted, the names, you can select basically 3 date ranges up to 2 weeks per range. So essentially up to 6 weeks if you add it all up of total windows. So that person that's coming in with a blank slate, you've essentially got 3 windows of time that you can work with. And otherwise, if you've already got that set trip, well, you're just going to be submitting for the dates that you need. A couple biggies. September is not an option. We've talked about it in the past. The RNA has so many different events and so forth going on. The Dunhill Links is at the end of the month, so they don't even offer it in September. And the website also gently urges you to avoid August and October because they're both very busy. It's not to say it can't happen, but that's what they have on there. So then at that point, the results go out in late October, and then Connor, I guess that's kind of when you would kick into gear with the routes that we were talking about earlier as far as planning a trip around it.
Yeah, it's right. I mean, if you're successful, obviously, first off, congratulations, awesome. You have your guaranteed tee time. That the low course guaranteed tee time will be a Monday through Friday. There are no guaranteed tee times by just a time through an operator or through the Swilcan package on Saturdays. So it is Monday through Friday. Saturday is that pure ballot, 2 day before ballot day. And payment is required within 7 days. So once you have it, you got to pay it essentially immediately. And if you don't, then, tee time is essentially lost and you kind of have to forfeit it. And also they are non-refundable. So definitely get trip insurance on that. When you do have that result, and if you're successful, again, we'll start building the trip around that successful tee time or move things around if you are planning on balloting. And if you're not successful with it, you can decide to ballot or do the singles daily draw while you're overseas. You can wait to the following year to potentially get a guaranteed tee time. So again, if you get your result and it's a no in October, then you'd be looking at guaranteed tee times of intended play in 2027, or putting in another Swilcan package application in the September of 20. Let me get my dates here. September 2026 for intended play in 27. So yeah, essentially you're looking at balloting next year in 26, or kind of going through the same process, but with potentially a guaranteed time for 2027. Yeah, that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, and you hit on something there that I think is also kind of important about payments required within 7 days. Yeah, let's call a spade a spade. There's probably folks out there who throw their name in the hat, just kind of, well, let's see if I get lucky, with no trip planned, no group put together. They're just kind of throwing it in there. Look, it's what I do with the Masters tickets every year, right? I haven't got it a single time, but yet I still apply every year. I have no idea who's going to go. I don't know what the plan is. I won't have any clue where to stay. I'm sure that happens with St. Andrews. Well, a couple things to factor in. The lead golfer, so that if you're applying, that's you, that name cannot change. So if you get a tee time or let's say you have a buddy that wants to go, the two of you, that first person's name on it has to remain the lead golfer. So if that person bails, you are potentially sunk. The other thing is that, let's say you don't have your group and you put in just buddies that you thought were going to go on the trip. You can only change the name one time. If you go to change a second name, that name change is going to cost you the full price of the package that you paid. They're essentially treating it like a cancellation. Point being is that if you're just applying on a whim and then you pay for it within 7 days, again on a whim, thinking you're going to put it together, it could get fairly expensive in the end if you don't actually have a game plan put together. So again, that's why we're doing this. You got 4, 5, 6 days left to apply for this thing. Get your ducks in a row right now. Really, more than anything, once you're successful, Connor, we're recording this. It is, by the time it comes out, it's mid-September. We are late in the game, quite frankly, for a lot of places, a lot of marquee names in particular. What is still out there for that person that draws the Wonka golden ticket and then is looking to put together the rest of their trip?
Aberdeen is always fantastic. Cruden Bay, rural Aberdeen there. There are still some pockets at Troon. I mean, you could do something with Machrihanish Dunes, Machrihanish Golf Club, the West Coast, and then over to St. Andrews. That'd be pretty fun. East Lothian still has some times too left. I've been booking groups in North Berwick pretty consistently recently with pretty solid tee times. Muirfield more than likely will not be on your itinerary, but can still pick up Dunbar or Gullen. So there's more than what we have seen in the past couple of years. I'll be honest, just kind of this time period. But yeah, I think you can still do a really solid trip. It's just not going to be probably exactly what you have for your mindset. Again, go back to that one example with my group of 8 gents that were successful. They got everything they wanted: Kingsbarns, Dumbarnie, the old Castle Course, and we just had them on the wait list for Carnoustie and just didn't come through. But they played London Links instead, so it was a solid trip outside of that. So yeah, flexibility. That's kind of the big name going around the office right now. But that is kind of what it comes down to. So
Yeah, I mean, how often have we repeated flexibility is key? And I think it goes back to, again, if you're not going to get the exact perfect trip that you want,
yeah.
how important is that to you? If you've got to
Mhm.
have a 10 a.m. tee time on the marquee courses every day, this might not be the path because
Right.
simply of where we are. I think the other thing is group of 8, you put in 2 separate applications. What are you going to do if one
Mhm.
of them hits and one of them doesn't?
Yeah.
Is your group going to be cool with that? Is it going to throw a wrench in the whole gears? Is there going to be some animosity between the 8 of you? And I think as well, by the time this comes out but by the time the results come out in, say, late October, the moment that happens, because we see it every single year, whatever availability is left with authorized providers in terms of guaranteed tee time is going to evaporate that fast, because all of those people who tried with the Swilcan
Yep.
package and were unsuccessful are now flocking to save their trip, is really what it comes down to. And I don't say that to push anybody to a guaranteed tee time, because
Right.
straight up, Haversham and Baker, we are 100% sold out of guaranteed tee times for 2026. So
Yeah.
we're not going to be the choice in terms of trying to save the trip. This is the broader advice that we're always trying to do, is to guide you. If your entire trip is going to make or break on the old course, now is the time to decide, are we doing the Swilcan package, or do we just need to bite the bullet and get that guaranteed time?
If you do go and you're able to get this tee time and, the mindset was, hey, we wanted Troon, or we wanted Muirfield, or we wanted Carnoustie, yeah, it would be a disappointment, but you have the old course. And I think that is the saving of the trip of what everyone wants to go on. If you do go on this and you're able to be successful with the old and not play one of those other courses, you're not going to come back and be like, oh, I wish we would have. It's like, oh my gosh, the old was incredible. And you brought up another point of, this year again, the application is up to 4. And that does create, I didn't mention it, but it does create a little bit of a logistical factor here of, there 4 could hit and 4 couldn't. And, 4 are able to play and the other 4 are balloting and they don't hit, or the other 4 have to worry about doing the singles daily draw. So it just creates a little bit more of a logistical factor and something that we will work through with our groups on it. But, yeah, flexibility is key when it comes to this. And it just has to, you have to kind of talk to everyone and see what they want to do. So it's a great process. We have groups every year that are successful with it. Some are not. Again, it's a flip of a coin. It's an application. So, but it's a great process they do, in my opinion. So
Yeah, it really is. It's totally in keeping with, kind of
mhm.
the mission of St. Andrews Links
Yep.
Trust in terms of keeping the old course available to all. And yeah, it is a lottery. As we've said in the past, treat the old course like a bonus and you'll never go wrong. The vast majority of our groups, once they get into town, once they're soaking it up, once they're, maybe they're playing the new course and they're walking that same stretch of links land, once they step into the jigger end, go up to 18 and they're looking down on it, the magic of that place. I won't say that it makes the old course not matter, because it absolutely does to a lot of folks, but it certainly gets a lot less. And if you treat it as a bonus, you'll never go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Said it right. Said it right for sure.
Well, we are going to wrap this one up. So if you are applying for the Swilcan package, good luck. We seriously, we really hope that that everyone out there listening, draws that golden ticket. We've said it so many times before, stuff has a funny way of coming together in St. Andrews, and you just got to have that outlook. And I think it comes your direction. We will include some notes in the show notes for you. Don't forget, if you're out there listening and you got an old course story already, go to our website, iversham.com/podcast, record your story. I'm not sure when we'll do that episode. It's probably a few episodes out, but we would love to include yours with it. But as always, thanks for tuning in and being with us. We will be back again soon with another episode. But until then, we wish you plenty of golf at its finest and life at its best.